the 4 states.
And we're far from done. Additional thunderstorm activity rolls in, which means our storm reports continue to dot the map. The latest from the Skywatch Weather Center.
And the sweet sounds of jazz return to New Orleans.
The 4 states' most watched news starts now.
Rivers and roads are flooding across the 4 states as Mother Nature continues to dump massive amounts of rain in our area. This is KOAM News at Noon. I'm Tanya Bach. Now, Spring River is just one 4-state waterway that's feeling the effects of the rain. The water levels here are sitting at about 17.5 feet. That's 3.5 feet above flood stage. National Weather Service predicts Spring River at this Riverton location to rise at least another 4 feet before cresting tomorrow. Lightning Creek near McCune and the Neosho River from Commerce, Oklahoma to Parsons are also both experiencing flooding. Of course, for any river to crest, it first needs to stop raining. Michael Hayslip has been tracking these storms.
Tanya, just to throw a couple other rivers at you while we're talking about that, the Verdigris River out right on the Kansas-Oklahoma state line, going to have massive flooding out there. Also of note, while not in our highlighted counties just to the south of us, but people are going to be familiar with it from weekend summer trips, the Illinois River, specifically the gauge at Tahlequah. By the time we get to tomorrow morning, the Illinois River at Tahlequah may have its second highest crest on record. And like you alluded to, we're not even close to being done as of yet. Here's where we sit at the Skywatch Storm Tracker. Now, Tanya's talking about the developments that we had earlier this morning. Here's a look at our local storm reports. That's in the last 12 hours alone. That's only the last 12 hours, so we can make this just a little bit more manageable. And the majority of those are not only the rain numbers coming in and what you see the circular blue icons, but anytime you see one of those icons there with the house and the water, that's an indicator of a road closure. Missouri Department of Transportation map, we've got some of our major thoroughfares that are still down right here. Let's go up to the very top. Missouri 126, it is closed. Of course, that's the same one as far as running from Barton County after it crosses the state line, turns into 4th Street right there in downtown Pittsburgh. Also, too, in Lawrence County, we've got Mo 97 closed. Of course, you can find an exit to that right off of I-44. And then as we progress down into Newton and McDonald County, CC, this is the second time in the span of 5 days we have had enough rain to close Route CC down in McDonald County. And here's a look at our rain numbers, the majority of this falling in the last 24 hours alone. Kind of pinpoint right here for southwest Missouri from Barton into Jasper, and then Lawrence and Dade counties as well, where easily we're pushing up around, say 7 to 8 inches of rain overnight into this morning. So of course we've got flood warnings, watches, the entire 9, lasting until Friday morning at the earliest expiration time. Not going to be surprised one bit if these are not extended into Mother's Day weekend, because as we look down to the south right now, we've got additional rainfall that's now leaving OKC, headed toward Tulsa, and eventually up toward us. Our temperatures sitting in the high 50s, low 60s. The most important thing, don't go anywhere without the umbrella. We're also going to have to throw some lightning into the mix later on this afternoon. As everything tracks southwest to northeast for the afternoon and evening, tonight it almost comes to a stalling point. Not a good thing. Be great if it could just depart. Nope. Counterclockwise motion turns over on itself, looking at an additional 1.5 to 3 inches of rain before we finally conclude this on Friday. Coming up here in just a little bit, Tanya, we'll talk about the records that could be broken here by the time we're all said and done, and also what could shape up to be a humid Mother's Day weekend coming off of all the rain that we've had. Yeah,
at least it's going to stop. That's what I'm looking forward to.
I'll take a humid day right now. Just give me something where things aren't falling out of the sky.
That's right. All right, thanks, Michael. Well, Ukraine's military says Russian troops are now inside a steel factory in Mariupol, and difficult and bloody battles are going on for control of the last stronghold of the city's defenders. Deborah Pata reports on Ukrainian soldiers and their allies, including some Americans who have been hurt fighting the Russian invaders.
The harder Russia flexes its military muscle, the harder Ukrainians fight back. And they've been joined by American fighters like Manus, blinded by shrapnel.
I can take it. I'm young. I'm a man. I'm strong. It's the kids and the old people who I really worry about.
But they're not just battlefield casualties. They are war heroes.
I was knocked out totally, and woke up, came around in my intensive care unit.
Vitaly Stanislavovich owes his life to 3 American volunteer fighters after their vehicle was blown up by a landmine. Alexis Antilla, also injured, was the first person to rush to him and feel for a pulse.
I didn't think he was going to make it in that moment, but we still were going to do everything we could to get him out of the vehicle.
Instinct then kicked in for Rob Vardaro.
And I refused to let him die. He's my guy. He's in my vehicle. Because I knew I had no time to look where I'm stepping, I ran through the minefield.
They dragged him from the burning vehicle. Their quick thinking saved him.
Especially Alexis, she is medic. They put a tourniquet on me because I was bleeding like hell.
That probably saved your life.
It saved my life, for sure.
And now he's worried for their lives as they're fighting in the east.
I don't want something happen to them.
Yeah.
I want them to be alive.
Yeah, you love them.
It's more than love. I can't imagine my life without my saviors.
A friendship forged on a bloody battlefield which shows no signs of letting up as Russia continues its all-out assault in the Donbass region.
Russia has ramped up its offensive in the east, but doesn't have much to show after more than 2 months of fighting. They've only managed to capture 1 city so far, which is perhaps why Russian forces are going all out in Mariupol in a bid to bring it fully under Russian control. Deborah Patter, CBS News, Vinnytsia, Ukraine.
Well, new security fencing is up around the Supreme Court as officials work to secure the court following a leaked draft showing the justices could be on the verge of overturning Roe versus Wade. Justice Samuel Alito, who wrote the draft opinion as reported by Politico, canceled an appearance last night over security concerns. If the court does eventually overturn Roe v. Wade, abortion laws will be settled on a state-by-state basis, and the battle over abortion is already well underway in nearly every state. Well, it's nearly time for the Run for the Roses. The 148th Kentucky Derby is this Saturday, and while some are picking out their hats and others are picking their bets, first responders are preparing for the first full-capacity Derby since 2019. The race at Churchill Downs in Louisville is the first contest in horse racing's coveted Triple Crown, which includes the Preakness Stakes and the Belmont Stakes. The sport's tradition began in 1875. The Derby is 1¼ miles in length. Age limit for horses in the Derby is 3 years, and the winner is given a blanket of roses. So the race is also known as the Run for the Roses. Hope my hat comes in time. That's a look at today's top stories and weather in our first 7 minutes. Up next on KOAM News at noon, Jazz Fest returns to New Orleans. We follow the music. And later, we're making a quinoa veggie salad in the Mr. Food Test Kitchen. New Orleans' beloved Jazz and Heritage Festival is back this year after a 2-year pandemic hiatus. CBS's Jamie Wax is a Louisiana native and has been going to the Jazz Fest since he was a teenager. Here's his love letter to the event.
Everyone in every place missed their celebrations during the pandemic. But here in New Orleans, a city built on over 300 years of deep celebrations, some losses went equally deep and made life here in the Big Easy a little difficult.
And this just in, Jazz Fest has announced it is canceling this year.
I know the Lord will take care of me.
I know, big deal. It's a music festival. But Jazz Fest means so much more than that here. But my favorite Jazz Fest memories have been hugging a long-lost friend under the shade of the big oak, seeing a local church choir blow the roof off the gospel tent, watching a young Mardi Gras Indian proudly carrying on his family's tradition. And of course, like any Louisiana celebration, there's the food. Food most of us only get at Jazz Fest. Crawfish bread, crawfish Monica, cochon de lait po' boys.
A little fresh slaw.
When Jazz Fest was canceled for the first time since it started in 1970, and yes, that includes the year after Katrina, then rescheduled, then canceled again, it wasn't just devastating to those of us in the audience. But as New Orleans' own Tank from Tank and the Bangas told us,
we're back. And
that's all I can say.
13 years ago this week, I had my 4th date with the woman who would become my wife at Jazz Fest. It was the date when I realized I wasn't just into this woman, I was falling in love with her, as you can see on my face in this embarrassing photo from that day. Since then, we've created memories there with our older children. Now, we get to enjoy our pandemic baby's first fest. It reminds us that when we share each other's music, food, and culture with open hearts, we're sharing love and respect for what makes us different and what makes us alike. Not even disease or division can stop that. In a complicated world, at a complicated time, that seems like something worth celebrating. Jamie Wax, CBS News.
Another on my bucket list. When we return, Michael Hayslip comes back with your complete forecast.
Mother Nature, the fickle mistress she is, trying to tease us with just a touch of blue sky over 7th and Rangeline. Look down at the ground. That's an indicator that we're far from being over, because we just had our last bout roll right through the intersection right there. Daily Almanac, I wanted to point out just the monthly total right there that you see, because coming off of what we had last night into this morning, and if it seems like it's been a little bit of a wet spring, coming off of what we had last night and this morning, it's the equivalent of the last 20 days of rain combined. 24 hours equal to the last 20 days is what we picked up. In areas of Jasper County, anywhere from 6 to 8 inches. That spread into portions of Lawrence and Dade County, move up into Barton County, and it was that same 6 to 8, a little bit of that filtering into Crawford County as well, which leads us to number 1, rivers, number 2, road closures. Here we are. We'll pick on the Spring River first off. Look at that exponential increase that we had for today and still hasn't crested. We expect that tomorrow, early tomorrow morning, around 25 feet. So not quite historic cresting for the spring, but certainly enough to cause flooding. That's at the Waco gauge. Here we are for the Neosho near Parsons. Now this timeline a little bit more elongated. You can tell it stays in the moderate flood category, about that 24.5 feet mark, all the way really until through Mother's Day weekend. And speaking of Mother's Day weekend, if you're tempted to get out on the river, it is a bad idea. They are going to be running. They are going to be running fast. The icons indicated with the red water, those are road closures. Those are updated as of 5 minutes ago. Shows you the amount of roads that are still inundated with water, and we can expect those to not reopen really until we get to probably Friday afternoon. Let's go back to 7th and Rangeline. 61 degrees is where we stand. More importantly, flood watches and flood warnings at least until tomorrow. And here's what we're going to pay attention to. It is down to the south. Not so much of what's in Texas. We're going to go Oklahoma City up through Tulsa right there. That's going to be our key factor, because everything is making a southwest to northeasterly track out by Wichita and Hutch. That'll continue up to the northeast. We're going to keep our eyes on this torrential rain that's about to roll through Tulsa and then up I-44. And when we talk about the severe thunderstorm risk map, while the greatest threats have moved off to the east, specifically through portions of eastern Texas and the Arklatex region, at the same time, you can tell we are still in that marginal category for the risk of additional flooding. Temperatures for this afternoon, really not going to go much of anywhere. Just need everybody on their toes, because we are going to pick up some additional lightning this evening. I don't think it'll be as impressive as what we saw last night. But look at this additional heavy rain that comes out of that Tulsa area on the central portion of the 4 states for this evening. Then watch the counterclockwise motion. Wouldn't want to leave anytime soon, so let's just kick it all back through the 4 states through Friday morning. Down to the south, look at that line that we were talking about in East Texas. That's going to pose some problems for them. So Tanya, from the Midwest down to the southwestern portion of the U.S., then into the southeastern portion for tomorrow. Wild weather for Mother's Day. Now, when we do get to Mother's Day, time to pop open the fan. Make sure Mom's got an umbrella if she's outside, because we're going to roll up into the 80s, and it's going to be steamy. With all that rain, all that moisture, it's going to start evaporating, and it very well may feel about like it's 90, 91 on Sunday.
It'll be humid, but at least it won't be raining.
We will take it. Right now, we will take it. 20 days. In 24 hours, we got the equivalent of the last 20 days.
Wow, a lot. All right, thank you, Michael. We take this time to honor today's 4-state hero, Purple Heart recipient Robert Fannin, and the U.S. Navy. The Joplin native served aboard the USS Pennsylvania, fighting in the Philippines and in Guam from 1945 to 1946. To Robert Fannin, we thank you, our four-state hero. Looking for a little travel in your diet? Today, Howard shows us how to experience the flavors of the Mediterranean with his recipe for a quinoa veggie salad in the Mr. Food Test Kitchen.
If you know us here in the Test Kitchen, we're not big on following fads or rushing after this or that trend just because a few people tout it. After all, how many times do we hear about something that's popular and it's either not readily available or the taste is just okay? But now that quinoa has become so mainstream and many of us have recognized all of its benefits, it's a great option to add to our pantry. So let me show you a salad that features quinoa in a whole new way. We start by cooking some quinoa according to the package directions. Takes just minutes. After it cools, we toss in some broccoli florets, a red pepper that we chunked up, a good amount of chopped red onion, and some crumbled feta. Of course, to make sure there's lots of flavor, we add in some dried oregano, salt, pepper, and a generous amount of a Greek-style dressing. Can't get any easier than that. Once this is tossed and chills for about an hour, it's ready to team with any of our mealtime favorites. Between the crunch of the veggies, the heartiness of the quinoa, and the wow we get from the dressing, what's not to love? To get the recipe for our quinoa veggie salad, all you have to do is visit our website. I'm Howard in the Mr. Food Test Kitchen, where today we found a different kind of way for you to say, ooh, it's so good.
We can find this recipe along with a lot more good food from the Mr. Food Test Kitchen online. Just go to our website at koamnewsnow.com. Here's a look at our four-state market prices.
Western part of southeast Kansas and northeast Oklahoma right back in on it. For those of you in the central and the eastern portion of the four states, might want to take this hour and a half, get anything done that you need to, because down to our southwest, coming up I-44 out of Tulsa, we're going to have additional nighttime rain. I know that's hard to believe coming off of the 6 to 8 inches that we've picked up in the last 24 hours alone, but this is not going to stop until Friday morning.
Yeah. Wow, just what we don't need at the moment.
Yeah. All right, what do we have coming up tonight at 5?
Well, at 5, awareness about cholesterol ranges from your primary care doctor to the honeybee on the side of that Cheerio box. We're going to find out what's really true when it comes to cholesterol myths. Plus, open enrollment could soon be the new normal for Kansas students. Find out how this has already impacted a local school district. And we look at local flooding affecting drivers today, and just as pointed out, that is widespread. Hope you join us for those stories, a whole lot more. It's coming up on KOAM News at 5.
All right, thank you, Dow. Thanks for joining us for KOAM News at noon. We'll see you right back here at 5 o'clock.